What part do you play?
From time to time I do act, like we all do.
So are you acting at all during this interview?
This film, I think, was born out of already your partnership. Folks that haven't seen their incredible film, Jockey, please go check it out. This is kind of, I feel, an extension of that, you know, showing a light on an area of society that is clearly vibrant, that needs to have a story like this told, but doesn't have the opportunity. I'd love for when you sort of found out about the program and then knew, hey, we have to get this to the screen so people can see this incredible, vital work that's happening.
It did come out of an extension of the things we've been doing together, and we're both writer, director, producers who work together, and there's something very unique about a relationship of we write together, and then when one is directing, that person is truly the director, and the other person switches into a supporting role. And Greg was doing a documentary inside of a maximum security prison and stumbled on this story through that, the rehabilitation through the arts. We couldn't have made this movie in the way that we did without having made Jockey and learning how to let the world into the movie. And we just took that to the nth degree with this one, of really opening up the process and letting go of our control over it in a way that made it so much more truthful than it ever would have been otherwise.
What was so challenging about that process was trying to do justice to these experiences we were having. You know, 8 years ago, the real Brent Buell invited Clint and I to a breakfast at his apartment because he said, if you want to understand the story, you need to meet the men who lived it. And the first man through the door was Clarence Maclin. And just the way he entered that room, you know, he has that thing, that aura, that magnetism. It's also his depth of spirit, his curiosity, his intelligence, his charisma. It's all those things that are coming from his spirit. The next man through the door was the real Divine G 8 years ago. But we didn't narrow that story until much longer, because you could make a movie about every one of the men in this movie. And so we tried to do that in the script early on, but it was too broad because you need to like narrow in and have something to attach to. And finally we had this breakthrough 6 years in that like, oh, the way to both attach to something but speak to a community was to tell the story of a friendship. And the friendship between Divine G and Divine I is very real and very sustaining.
Mr. Colman Domingo, sir, first of all, what you do in this performance, we all just need to give a minute for that. It is exceptional. But that's not something we're unfamiliar. You've told me that you had to bring literally the 30 plus years that you've been in this industry to this performance to pull off everything that was required of Divine G. So I'd love for you to talk about how you prepared for it and what was your most satisfying moment of bringing all those talents to the performance.
What a beautiful question. When we started this process, when Greg and Clint asked me to come on board when they didn't have a script, but they had some real good heart and ideas about it. And I met Clarence and we started creating some Zooms and figuring out what the story was together. They literally asked me to bring everything, you know, and you're not often asked to bring everything. They want the actor part of you. So my prep was different than usual. I usually prep, I'm a prep fiend. I come from the theater and I love rehearsal. And so I made time while I was doing, you know, playing Mr. in The Color Purple to make time to think about this and inquire and interrogate the work and prep myself. But I also needed to prep in a different way, I thought, because I'm really, you know, it's not so foreign actually, just, you know, fighting for your own humanity. It's like I didn't have to look so far and just look at the, you know, the industrial prison complex and everything. I understand the container it's in, but for me it was like going to my roots of theater and the thing that made me feel like I can see myself and I can create characters and I can be large and vivid and express myself in a way that I couldn't do in my life. I'm from inner city West Philadelphia, and when I finally found the theater, I clung to it. I was a shy kid, and it helped me actually express myself and find my place in the world. So I know the tools and what theater gives me, and that was at its core. And when I knew that, like, I'm like, oh, they wanted to be in with a Shakespeare monologue. Who does that? How beautiful is that? I get to share that part of myself. So it really did bring in my 30 plus years in the theater and as a creator and as someone who believes that art changes lives and saves lives. It really, that was underneath all of it. And I knew that it was going to help strip me down by working with, you know, my beautiful brothers here, where I was able to really just say, oh, this is not, this should be a sleight of hand. This is not, I need to fold myself in a different way. This isn't performative like Rustin was, and it didn't require sort of that size. It required something different, and it required even more of me.
Thank you. Mr. Clarence Maclin, sir, I feel that I just go ahead and have to say it, as someone who knows this story literally inside and out, you are literally credited as a story by in this one. I think you know that this story could have been told in a different way. They could have chosen not to be inclusive with, you know, persons convicted of a crime. They could have chosen not to be inclusive with how they set up the entire production amongst all of you. When was the moment that you realized in joining this was going to be something completely different than what you could have hoped, when maybe folks got to see the scene? Because this is not the first time, I'm sure, someone's like, oh, let's make a movie of this. But this team did it in a very different way. I'd love for you to talk about what that meant.
Yeah, certainly. This is definitely not the first time. In RTA, Rehabilitation Through the Arts, there has been others who have come and approached us and said that they wanted to do things like this. But in sitting down and conversating with them and figuring out what their worldview was and how do you see the world, this has just come through conversation. It has nothing to do with the script, it has nothing to do with the project you put on the table. We need to know who you are and exactly what you want. You probably look at us like a tax write-off, or maybe you want to get yourself a good night's sleep for helping some poor prisoners out, and that's not what we're about. We want to just be included as human beings involved in any type of project that advances the human nature and the human spirit. That's what we're about. I don't want to be a poster child. I don't want to be a pity party participant. When Greg and Clint came, there was no sense of exploitation in them. It was all genuine, and we met eye to eye. When you meet people that can look you in the eye and talk and tell you what they need and tell you what they expect of you, you are at a scratch line where you have to measure up to that. This is what we was looking for, and we found it with the beautiful people that came. And then we got Greg, we got Colman involved, and from the very first Zoom meetings that he and I had, it was apparent that the chemistry was magnetic. It was something that, you know, it's indescribable, really. It's something that you can't put a label on. It's something that you will not be able to buy in a store. You can't purchase it. You can't go reproduce it. You will not be able to duplicate this in a false fashion in any way.
Ms. Walton, ma'am, I love this story of how you got involved, because I'm from Austin, and I know you're from Austin. I love how what y'all did as a producing team, by making everyone essentially number one on the call sheet, by making everyone equals on set, both above and below the line. That is not something that is often done equitably in film production. There's such hierarchies. I would love for you to talk about, first of all, let folks know what that means, and then how that informed the story that we got to see.
So when Greg and Clint pitched me the film, it was a bit of an ambush, I will say. But when I first heard the story, I was like, this feels like it's a story about healing. And that really, you know, just affected me, resonated with me as something that I wanted to be a part of. And one of the other big pieces of it was this financial model that they had done on Jockey that they wanted to bring to Sing Sing and scale it up for Sing Sing. One of the things that was really amazing was that Greg and I lived in Austin, you know, for 12 years by that point, and we never crossed paths, but we make films in the very same way, which is this community-based model of we involve the community, but in a way where it's a collective exchange, and there's like this mutual respect. And so the model that they had completely reflected that. And the model is that everyone gets paid the same rate, so all of us on this stage throughout our entire crew, through post, gets the same daily or weekly rate, and then everyone participates in the profits. And so part of what that means is that we all have the same inherent value, and the only variable is the time that you work on the film. And so that was like super radical.
Mr. Paul Raci, I'll bring it to you, sir, because you've been on countless film sets and you've been acting for decades. What was that like as an actor to sort of step into that? Because I guess there's theater productions that are like that sometimes, and maybe you've dealt with that in the past, but how did that sort of inform you as you were approaching, you know, joining this production, and did that inform your performance?
It did. And people ask me that all the time. How was it working with the convicts, these guys? Honestly, from the first moment that I met them or got there, I met the guy who was playing Brent Buell, who was a wonderful, peaceful, loving man. These guys just brought it all. I mean, we knew we had Colman, who was going to bring everything, but when we did a couple of improvs, and you don't know what to expect really, but these guys were present for us, and they were telling their own story. So it was very moving at times. Almost forgot that there was a camera on. They were so intimate and honest with us and themselves. So it was quite a blessing to have that experience.
I'm going to bring it to you as a friend, Sean, as a friend of Colman's. Your, for folks that haven't seen, your monologue towards the end, and I think you know what I'm talking about. Knowing that you were talking to Colman, maybe in a way that y'all have never maybe talked to as friends, in the sense, obviously, the setting is different. What was that like for you, sort of like that blurring of the lines? Because they're Divine G and Mike are best friends inside, and I can only imagine it's not the type of friendship that you could have that sort of cinema verite, because how many other actors have been friends with friends for 30 years and then are also doing like a two-handed scene like that? So yeah, break down what that day was like for you.
Yeah, thank you. What a beautiful question. And I want to say hello, Los Angeles. I'm very happy and humbled to be here. I mean, the whole thing was an amazing experience. And I think for me, a lot of what you're hearing points to belief. Everything from the way it was created, the way they place very carefully, very organically, the alchemy of who they want involved, everything from the economic structure to the spiritual structure to how you enter a room. And belief is everything. And this guy who is at the top of his form as an artist, he's my best friend. He's the greatest soul that I've ever met. So the idea of belief in real life is what I get gifted from Colman. And you walk onto a set and someone believes in you, the belief level, like beyond my mother. I don't know anyone who believes, hey, I'm real, that's true. He believes in me. And if you can walk in a room and somebody believe in you, you start here, someone believe in you, you walk out to here. And if you're walking out to here, you can open up and give so much more. And then so in that scene, the friendship part is that's like in the blood. And so when we get to be in the room and just cook together, we're just ready to go anywhere your soul can take you. And I think the film is about what can your soul hold? What can your soul do? And without belief, I don't know, without love, what could we do? And I have the love from him as a human being, but on a set, as you all are film people, that's everything. So that's what it was like for me.
I love that. I want to thank our incredible panel, all of you for watching, of course, the Academy, and thank you all again.